Hi, it's Lynn, your adulting coach. Today we're going to talk about truancy, resistance, and dysregulation. Thanks to Harris, who reached out with this concern, this struggle. He won't graduate because he won't go to school because of his hormones. So let's tackle this, both a short-term and a long-term strategy for Harris and his son, because I know that Harris really loves his kid all the way down to his toes, and we want to figure this out. We want to teach how to make good decisions. That's our overarching goal, are the three disciplines: responsive, structural, and expansive. So the first thing we want to tackle is helping him make better decisions, because obviously this decision to resist going to school is probably going to have some longer term impacts that maybe his son doesn't quite understand yet. So let's go through the process. First, we have to accept that what's happening is he's being triggered into this dysregulated state. It's the same trigger. Yes, all the logic in the world that you've presented hasn't shifted it one bit. And that's so frustrating, because we do have a few more miles on our tires, and we do want to warn our kids of some of the impact of the decisions that they're making. But we can't start there because they are dysregulated. Their brain's offline, they're not thinking, and we just have to find another way in. We have to accept that it's not that they need to try harder. And the strategies we've used since they were younger was of distraction and disassociation, meaning, let's look at this shiny toy over here so you won't have a fit, or all right, let's just change the channel or change the video or whatever, or hand them the iPad. Somehow just get them from the state where they are now into a more regulated state just by disassociating with the problem. Reasoning just won't work in this case. While they're dysregulated, their brains are offline. So for this, that's what we need to keep in mind as a parent. As the young adult, we can help them notice what's going on. Now it's hard at this point, so we have to really be patient, because they're in the spin cycle. They're in the washing machine. All their thoughts have been dumped in to their brain. Their brain's offering them all these protection thoughts, and they're just spinning around so much. It's like a washing machine. They can't even sort one thought out from the other. So we have to validate where they are and notice the emotion that they're feeling. That is the way in. And it's got to be a short validation. It's got to be, you seem really upset, or you seem, afraid, or you seem like you're dreading going to school. Just that short emotion, because you don't have to use the word because, but, whatever, that short reflection. And then we zip our lip and we do the best we can to be present and attuned to what's going on inside of them, and breathing, and taking the shoulders down, taking it back a bit, just adjusting ourselves so that we're as regulated as we can be while this volcano is going off. And that's the best analogy I can think of, is we just have to let the volcano go off. Sometimes it's helpful to write down some of the thoughts that they have, because it's really hard to watch our kids lose it. So we won't remember a lot of what they said. But if we happen to have a pencil or a pen available, if we happen to, have Otter turned on where we can transcribe this moment, it will help us figure out what that washing machine of thoughts, that spin cycle of thoughts is that are going on inside of them. And that's when we, instead of trying to access the logic and the reasoning, which is gone, we access them both by acknowledging their emotion and by noticing what's happening in their body. You'll see their breath is going to be much more rapid, their heart rate is rapid. Is there a way that they could move? Is there, could we go for a walk? Could we go down in the basement and, lift some weights together? Could we, ride a bicycle someplace? Any way that we can access the body for us to help regulate that the vagus nerve, and use the polyvagal theory on just getting things settled back down again. It's not going to be through logic. It's going to be through emotions and the body. And we want to connect with them in this way because we want to build trust with them that we are the person they want to come to help them solve their problems. We want to collaborate with them because we know that of all the people, the 8 billion people on the planet, that we are the ones that have their best interests at heart for sure. So we want them to realize the value that we can add to their life, but we have to convince them. We have to build this trust with them. And if we can figure out what their love language is, there's the 5 love languages, and I don't know them all off the top of my head, but it's, service and gifts and time spent and touch, and I don't remember the 5th one, but if we can figure out what it is that makes them feel loved, wow, that helps. Now it also helps if we know what our love language is, so that our cups are absolutely ready to receive whatever it is that's going on. And that's how we open up their spoons. The spoon theory is when we think of their body or their energy as having a certain number of spoons, so for a certain number of tasks. So there's emotional regulation, there's social things, there's just working, doing their homework or going to a job, or reading, and then there's they need that time to recover so that they can fill those spoons up again. So if we can also figure out what's going on with their spoons, this is all going to help them respond better. And that's the discipline we're trying to build with them. Obviously, it's going to take more than just one day. Because now what we want to do is help them add some structure in their life. It's not just about time, it's also about figuring out what matters to them. So if we can anchor in their essence, that's when we discover what are the virtues that they most want to practice, so that when they are practicing them, we can notice them and remind them of them, and compliment them. So mine is a SCARF: strength, compassion, action, regulation, and focus. I recite this to myself daily, many times a day, to make sure that I center in what matters most to me. So somehow as a parent, we need to know what that is. And I know it always includes love. So let's just anchor in our essence so that we can center ourselves and notice when our children are best, our autistic graduates are best centered. It's usually when they're doing something that they care about. It's usually they can tell us what the virtues are that matter most to them. And there's exercises inside the Art of Adulting that will help you get to that as quickly as possible. So that's what we want to do, is anchor in what matters most to us and matters most to them, because they are now transitioning from being told what to do to deciding what to do. And once they decide, if we can hook onto that, if we can hook onto what's important, what they've decided is what matters to them, then we can make progress, because our kids are always tuned into that station, what's in it for me. And we want to make sure that we're hooking on to that. So the third discipline is the expansive discipline. We want them to feel the fear and get through it and do the scary thing anyway. This is how we get them to expand their skills. And that's what I'm sure is so frustrating for Harris, is that he and his son keep going through this same dance, and feels like he's playing whack-a-mole. He's just, hitting one thing after it, and yet that it just keeps popping up. He thinks he got it done yesterday, but it's here again today. And that's why the distraction and the disassociation doesn't work. What we really have to get into is what's going on inside. What is the vision for their life? That's their anchor. And what's the self-talk that keeps going on inside of their head? So we talked about the anchor. Now we're going to talk about the three questions: the what, the so what, and the now what. When they are dysregulated, it is not the time to try to ask them these questions. But if you can find a way in later, when everybody's more calm, we need to find out what the thought is. And I'm going to grab that thought that Harris gave us at the beginning. So what? School refusal. So what is his thought and emotion combination? And it's his hormones. He's thinking, my hormones are off, so that's why I feel out of control. So that's an interesting sentence to notice and appreciate, because now you have a clue as to the type of thinking that's going on in his head. What does he mean by his hormones are off? What's going on? Just hopefully you can say a statement back to him in your validation. So you don't want to go to school, you feel out of control because of your hormones. And then, do the double zip and go forward with writing down what he's thinking, maybe ordering, doing a transcription of what he's thinking. We want to get to the layers, the automatic thinking that his brain is offering him that keep him stuck in this same pattern. What's going on in there? Is there any wiggle room? My hormones are changing, and that's okay. Or maybe it's my thinking that's influenced by my hormones. Somehow, if we can get a thought that is just a little different from where he is now, but he also believes is true. He finds that sentence true, and it's more helpful to him. We just need to move from this sabotaging thought of, my hormones are changing and it's out of my control and I can't do anything about that, to a helpful thought of, well, my hormones are changing and maybe that's okay. Somehow that shift will then help him have an emotion of maybe curiosity. What part of this is hormones and what part of it is my thinking? Let me see if I can figure this out, so that we can get into an emotion that helps turn on that frontal lobe, that helps him think better. And now the sixth part is, what do we do with our actions? The sixth practice is we just keep repeating the validations, the listening, the doing our best to understand, the reflecting of the thoughts that we get so that they see them, because we're trying to help them sort out what is real versus what is a fact. I mean, it feels real to him that his hormones are raging and that's why he can't control his temper. That feels very real. What's true is it's more complicated than that. And we need to help him see and sort out the parts that he can and cannot control. Obviously, he cannot control the hormones that are happening in his body. But the good news is he does have the power to control how he thinks about the hormones in his body. And we recognize every time that he notices something, anything, and we recognize in ourselves when we notice something, when we are better regulated, when we understand and really create that trust, that bond, that stronger connection with our kids. We recognize when we're doing what works, and we celebrate that. And then we notice what's not working, and we go and repeat that again. The final practice is we keep reviewing, the progress we've made. That's one of the problems our kids have with the autistic brain that they got, is that they have a hard time extrapolating the lessons from before and applying it to today, or projecting what's going to happen in the future. So we want to remind them of all the good things that they've done, of all the progress that they've made, and then what happened in the most recent experiment, the most recent thing that they were willing to try, and what went well, and what did we learn. And then, okay, what are we willing to do next? And that's when we follow that collaborative problem-solving process by Ross Greene, where we talk about the facts, their thoughts, our thoughts, what's next? Where do our thoughts and their thoughts overlap, and what are they willing to do? What are they confident, which is just the willingness to try something else and conduct that experiment to see what else they can learn. So those are my best thoughts for you, Harris, and I really appreciate that you have brought them to me, and I really hope that you get a chance to come on into the Art of Adulting. When you click on the link and learn more about those 3 disciplines and the 7 practices, and you'll see that I have I want it to be a reasonably priced offer for you to come and get help directly from me, because we know that this is a real learning process that we as parents are going through, and it's so rewarding when we see the impact that we can have on our kids and how they learn and grow, so that they're going to be okay on their own someday with their increased independence skills. Bye for now.